Welcome to Living Conversations, brought to you by Living Bankside, with me, Joseph Bonner.
And me, Adelina Godinho.
Now, over the series of these interviews with our local representatives, we've been interviewing some existing councillors, some putative wannabe councillors, and today we're going to be joined by someone who is a councillor but will be standing down at the local elections on May 7th. So we're joined today by Cllr Naima Ali, former mayor of Southwark and councillor for North Walworth. Cllr Ali has been a staunch campaigner for FGM, female genital mutilation, or cutting, as some others do reference it, and has spent much of your career working with those dealing with addiction. And now in your role as councillor, you've sat on a number of committees, from parenting to health, representing North Walworth and the Labour Party. So you are not returning or seeking to be re-elected this time around, and your successor in your ward will be decided on May 7th. And lastly, before we begin, I just want to say, as always, Living Bankside is not a political organisation. We're not here to represent or endorse any party or any individual. We are strictly apolitical. But wonderful to, in this series, had the Liberal Democrats, the Labour Party and the Greens all represented so far as people who have, as parties who have councillors in the area in Southwark. So with that, Naima, you're very welcome to join us here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome. So you were born in Somalia, just going right back, and you moved to the UK about 30 years ago. Can I ask what drew you to London and specifically to Southwark? Tell us about that journey.
Obviously, my journey has been so tough, like many people who've kind of like find their way to come and settle in different countries. I was so lucky to find myself in London, but obviously I didn't come directly to London. When I came, I kind of like, if I'm more honest, I have been to so many not cities. Obviously, I've lived in Manchester first and then moved to different parts of London. I have been almost homeless 10 times, trying to settle. So my journey, I think, being in UK was more painful than my journey, kind of, because sometimes when you go through a lot of life challenges, you tend to forget that, and then you become more adapted to where you live. But as I was trying to adapt, it wasn't as easy as. And I think because of what I have gone through, that has contributed me to kind of like push myself to be where I am now.
And any particular reason as to how you ended up in London and then in Southwark itself, or was it
obviously
more?
It is a very long route. Obviously,
Yes.
you cannot just, it's not easy to come from your country to another one. So obviously I've gone through different places, different channels to be. So it's like many people who are like, where should I go? Where it's more like places where at that moment, in the 90s, it was so much like for my community, UK was one of the places that it was more easier route by then. So coming to UK, I would say, was the best thing that had happened to me. So the pain, I would just say, obviously, I would try and kind of like tell myself, forget about the pain and enjoy the moment that you have and the opportunity that you've had in the UK.
Quite a journey. And
It is very painful. Yes. That's why sometimes I don't want to go back there.
Yes.
You know, to be honest, it's not something that I would like to think of at the moment. And that is how I deal with my life. Every time it's more like, what doesn't kill you, what doesn't break you makes you strong.
Stronger, indeed.
So because I have survived, I know I will still be surviving.
And thinking hopefully of a less painful period, and more recently when you were mayor of Southwark, and we should say, for those who don't understand the system, every council, every borough in London has a mayor. You were mayor in Southwark for a year from 2024 to 25. Yeah. We had the joy of having you at many Living Bankside events during your year as mayor, and even I think as deputy mayor the year before, you were coming along and supporting us, for which we're very grateful. Tell us a little bit about the borough of Southwark in your experience as you found it as mayor.
I would just say, I will always say it's been an honor and a privilege to serve one of the most amazing, most diverse and beautiful borough in the whole of London, and also the best place to be in the whole of UK, I would say, and wherever I've been. Southwark, like I said, it's so diverse, and with the population of 310,000, and serving as the first ever Black hijabi Muslim woman was something that many have not experienced. And one of the best things, like I've always been asked, why, when, how, where. So wherever I go, I'm just expecting to be asked, that's something. How did you become? Where did you start? How are you doing with all that kind of thing? So I have had the privilege of serving. I've attended over 25 church services, as a Muslim woman sitting there. And I was just not going there just to like 10 minutes, then I go. Out of respect, I used to sit from the beginning of the service to the end. And then I ended up learning more about different sects in, Protestant, Catholics, CCC, how they do it. And I'm the one who is talking more about Christianity now than many. And I was kind of telling people, you know what, maybe you're a Christian, you attend church, but I've been to so many churches, so which is something that I've been. And then this is what Southwark has made me, where your faith, your background, anything cannot define you. You can be whoever you want to be. In Southwark, that is something that I can say. And I have met amazing, amazing people in Southwark. And I can assure you for that, even 1 year or even more, I have not experienced any like racism, but it is me how I embrace and how I with people. So those are the kind of things that I kind of like really want to share. Let's not look at the color. Let's look at the humanity. You see the person in front of you as human. Then ask them first, what obviously you can see the color. What is their background? What is their religion? Then focus more on what you have in common. So this is what Southwark has taught me. And it is more, but I will leave it there for now.
Well, we'll explore more of that as we go along, but that's a great set of experiences. Of course, we were happy to share in some of those events as well that you mentioned.
And I think the best also, I will say, I've had an opportunity to meet our seniors. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I remember when I was mayor, the first thing I said, every of our senior who turns 100, I will attend their birthday.
Yes.
And I put some budget aside. I didn't know how much money was there, but to me, that was their priority. And also the opportunity of bringing a lot of our residents to Tooley Street, where many of them, they've never been to Tooley Street. Mm-hmm. I will tell you, my first time I came to Tooley Street when I was elected, that night of counting. And the message I went in with, if someone like me who is an activist, who is known within, has never been to Tooley Street, what should I do different for our community that I can host events in Tooley Street and they can come? So I did several of them, which my goal was, come here, we celebrate our that. So I think it was one of my best years, and I will cherish that year forever.
And of course, you came to Joyce's 100th birthday party, yes. Of course, who sadly is no longer with us. But that was a special day. Local resident here in Bankside, who you met a few times. I think the first event you ever did as mayor after your installation was a Living Bankside event. So we've been very lucky. Adelina.
Yes, so you've mentioned so much about your experience, and it's so nice to hear what a positive impact you've had on other people and a positive experience that you've had. So I just wanted to know, was there any specific moments? What was, you say, one of your fondest memories? And I'm sure that you've also had the chance to meet some of Southwark's best during your time that year.
One thing about me, I've always been saying, if you have any form of lived experience, you can say it without apologizing, and you can sit at the table and dictate people on how you want to live your life, for sure. And obviously, I've had a lot of amazing things, but when I came in, and something that has pushed me even to be sitting at the table and be involved in decision making is more of my own lived experience as a survivor of female genital mutilation. And those are the kind of things I remember. The question that I was asked wasn't the kind of question. How I was asked wasn't the best. How I was being seen as a criminal of a crime which I haven't committed. The way that I kind of like put it was something that I just said it had happened to me, and I should not allow it happening. But by then I wasn't living in Southwark, because that was almost 25 years ago when I started talking about FGM, but I didn't know how to do it. But at least I wanted to be an advocate for my own self at the beginning. But later on, I have to question, if this is what I'm going through, what about many of them who have got like language barrier, who have been kind of cornered not to speak about FGM or some things which can be like shame within different communities to speak about. And I just said, you know what, I have to go. There's so many things which had happened to me based on how I was treated by the professionals or the system. And I said, enough is enough. But then that was the time when I started talking about it. I came to realize that I can be very powerful, my voice can be very powerful. And then that gave me that privilege of like being invited to talk. But it was hard, because sometimes it's more like, I don't want anybody to feel like because you are not coming from that practicing community, or you have got nothing to do with that, that means you cannot speak for us. I'm a strong believer of allies. I wanted everybody to learn something. Then I remember that was something which pushed me more into politics later on, when I came to know my voice can be heard. I became an activist, I think, political activist since 2014. And then immediately I became women officer, which I didn't even know what to expect. But as soon as I knew I was women officer, my first agenda was FGM. I just wanted, and I succeeded in a way that I started planting that seeds of FGM within Southwark. I said, I want everyone at least to learn, to hear about FGM. And as I was going through, I came to realize that it was more easier for me to say, I am a survivor. It's not easy when it comes to my community. And I remember also one of those days that I did a conference and I spoke about FGM. My kids were at home watching online, live. And they're like, Mom, that was so intense. But I was so proud that at least my voice have heard. And that was also a start of that conversation. So this is what like pushed me. Oh, actually, whenever you have any form of lived experience, don't apologize. You are the master there. You can dictate, you can tell people exactly how you want the system to treat you. And that is how my voice was so powerful. And also based on the committee that I was sitting, based on what I wanted to share, I chose to be in those committees where I can still have a say.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. That was very powerful. And I'm sure that we'll be delving into that a bit more later on. But I just wanted to also touch a bit on, before you became counsellor, you had spent around 17 years working with those experiencing drug and alcohol addiction. So why did you decide to take up that cause?
To be honest, at the beginning, I did not intend to work in addiction field. Like I was new, and I was only like how many years in the country. And it was just when I was granted leave to remain, because 7 years I was with nothing. So I have to do a lot of voluntary work. And there was a role which was advertised on supporting Somali support work or something like that. But it was working with cat, which was a more of a stimulant drug, green leaf, and but now it is illegal. But with me going there, I didn't know, because deep inside, I did not see that it was a drug, because it's something that it's normal within our community. But because it affected especially men in different ways, they kind of like introduced that position where someone can come. I went in and then I started hearing about heroin, crack cocaine, alcohol. I became more curious. Because I'm a very quick learner and I love kind of working with the team. I think within 3-4 months, I was asked if I want to learn more, if I want to work with, hard drugs and that. I said, why not? And that was the best decision also that I made, because from 2003 to 2019, and also by then I was almost the only, I love that, only hijabi. And we used to be asked, you Muslim again is kind of like alcohol. Why are you? And then I will get my LGBT client who will walk in and say, oh, you are Muslim, you don't agree. But to be honest, I did help them change the perception, because later on I became one of the most liked, that anyone who comes in will just come and say, we want, the Muslim woman. And it's based on also my personality of how I deal with people. And for 17 years, they've also contributed to my decision making to be in politics, because 99% of my clients were European, white Europeans and that. And then when they talk about homelessness, not understanding the system, many of them, they've not gone beyond depth for the area. And then I have to initiate to take them to central London. And I question myself, is it me actually coming to a country and now I'm telling someone who was born and raised in this area, let me take you to central London as part of their recovery? But they really taught me, like, you know what? Regardless to their addiction, they're human being and they need their voice to be heard. And I think I wanted to be their voice as well in politics. Yeah, so it wasn't something I chose, but going in there, obviously as Somalian support worker, it gave me that way, and it was the best thing, and that's why I've been there for 17 years. Yeah.
So it's honestly incredible, helping some of society's most vulnerable. And as you've said, it's one of the things that made you go into politics. And would you say there was anything else that inspired that, or that also made you want to go into being a councillor specifically?
No, I think I did not want to be a politician. I tell them, I would just, if I just said, it's something sometimes you plan, you just say, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a politician. No, to me it was more of pain, more of suffering, more of seeing many people, like the way the system is treating them. And sometimes it's more like, I like to be very fair. When you talk about system, what did you do to challenge the system? I don't want to sit there or see anyone not doing anything, and then all of a sudden you're saying, oh, I've been discriminated, or the system is unfair. If you ask them, what have you done? Do you know your councillors? Have you ever been to the council office? They will tell you no. So I did not want to sit back and say, you know what? I just wait doing things to be done for me. I am more fadwa. I want to, however painful it is, I love to push myself into it. So it was more like my suffering. I've always been saying, if you hear, you see, and you feel suffering, and you don't do anything, then you need to question your humanity. I did not want to sit later to regret and say, I wish I could have done. And that's why I took the risk to become a politician. I didn't know what to expect until the 4 years that I was a politician. Yeah.
That lends us nicely into my next question. But just to clarify, when you were working for those 17 years, you were working for the council, or was it another health service,
working,
or was it just a setup, or were you just doing it on your own behalf?
I wasn't working for the council, and I never even knew how to get into the council. I was working for charitable organization, and then every 3 years we used to be stupid over, because it's more like contract, and it was more like the council don't usually run drug and alcohol services. They kind of like give contract to some other organization, and that's where I was lucky to work with. If I'm honest, I've worked with all main drug and alcohol services, main one, because every 3 years they just kind of go around to different bar, bid for contract, they win, we stupid over. So although the work was different, I was so lucky also to work with almost maybe 5 different providers. And one of the best things that I would say, I had a lot of positive, um, where my client became drug-free. I see them going back to uni, reunited with their family. For those who had homeless issue, we've been personally have been helping them, going beyond doing home visits. So it wasn't just them coming here, we talk about it, but it's very much like helping them change their lives. And I will just tell you, it's over hundreds, even more of my clients that I have helped. When I see them also on the street, sometimes I have seen them, those who've gone back to uni or those who already have in their family. This is what really make me so proud of what I have done, because all my life was more of serving humanity.
So it's a great record. It must be a great achievement. You must feel satisfaction when you have those occasions of meeting people. Going back to when you first became a councillor, entering public life, what were the challenges that you faced on that journey? Tell us about that time.
You know what? When I love that question, when you are a community activist and then you end up becoming a politician, your language changes straight away. For sure, you have to kind of like, however much I want to solve everyone's problem. I want everyone to be happy. It's so hard to make everyone happy, because sometimes you make very tough decisions, which kind of like you're thinking of maybe 3, 4, 5 generations to come. So we don't just think of now, where when you are an activist, you just want things to be dealt with immediately. So my journey wasn't easy. I'm a mother of 4 also. Then that commitment where you either have to work full time to put food on your table, and then on the other side, balance with your family life, wasn't so easy. So to me, what I came to know in a way, I don't want to discourage anybody, but when you come into politics, you become a councillor, it's not just something that you come in and you call yourself a councillor. It comes with a lot of commitment, where you come from work maybe 5, 6, you have to attend a meeting. Minimum, you have to give like 25 hours extra. And the best thing is also serving. Many people don't understand that we are doing this almost for free. So when you come in, you're thinking like, maybe I will get good money that will kind of, but believe me, you have to work or have your own business to balance that. But I came in with the intention of serving. I know 4 years won't be easy, but I came to know the reality of being a councillor maybe the second, third month into when I became a councillor. When you're a candidate, when you're coming in, it's completely, you think like you are not expected to do so much. So it wasn't easy, but I have enjoyed every moment. I would say, because I'm not going to be looking at the little pain. That's not the way I look at my life. I look at what have I really gained from that 4 years. What have I gained? Not money, but in terms of network, in terms of people, the opportunity that I have met over 50,000 off every corner of Southwark could have never happened if I wasn't a councillor. Yeah.
It's very well expressed. And it's really only until you become that mayor role, that ceremonial role for a year, that's the only time you really have any staff or support. And even then it's pretty limited. I think you get the use of the car for official functions, although I know you're a great fan of the bus as well. I've seen you running for it on occasion many times, and you do have some support to help with all the invitations and so on. But generally, as a councillor, you don't have any staff or as such dedicated to you. You have officers in the council, but they're tasked by the leading party, aren't they, that run the council predominantly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Obviously, being a mayor, you have the office. It's just amazing. But to be honest, like you say, we no longer have the car, which is okay.
Oh, the car's gone.
It's completely gone. I've never heard. I was just taking Uber. I was taking maybe some time when I go to kind of like some kind of, I'm not going to call posh, because I've always been me. Cars doesn't make massive difference as long as I'm there. And just because of the title and the respect that, it is like must for me to be treated in a certain way. But that I didn't see, because I would say I'm so grateful that we didn't have that car, because how I used to see the past mayors, I used to see it very much like too much attention. But with me, when I was mayor, even my neighbors did not realize that much. They used to see me a bit of wearing my kind of like
Your chain and your
the
cloak
robe,
and
but they see me jumping on Uber and that, they're like, really? But yeah, but being a councillor, obviously, there is no, we can only send email, we get respond, but you tend to rely more on yourself. Obviously, you cannot make decisions finally by yourself. It's different. But I would just say, what a beautiful moment for me to experience being a councillor and being a mayor within 4 years.
indeed, happy days. We remember it well. Now, you've championed many causes, as we've talked about already a little bit, but the one that's, I think, most associated with you is female genital mutilation, cutting, FGM. You are Southwark's inaugural FGM ambassador. I wonder if you want to take this opportunity to speak a little bit about that issue and some of your advocacy work on that subject.
Yeah, thank you. I always smile. It's so painful, but always. It's just because being an FGM ambassador, that didn't just come. I was given the title just when I was mayor, councillor, because I think as soon as I was elected being a councillor, the second year I was appointed as a deputy mayor, and then immediately I became an FGM ambassador. Then my third year I became the mayor. But that title of being ambassador was so much, and I have to take with both hands, very much committed to it. In the whole world, globally, 230 million women have been cut. That is 230 million. And every 12 seconds, a girl is dying as a result of cutting. There are over 30 countries, maybe in Africa, who are practicing. And every community, they do this different. So it's not Islamic at all. People tend to see like it's more like something to do with Islam. It's nothing to do with Islam. The reason why they think it's Islamic is very much because many countries that practice in FGM are more like Islamic dominated countries. But definitely I somehow know like it kind of migrated with the Arabic culture back in the times of Pharaoh. Although it was just yesterday that I was talking to someone that even before the time of Jesus, there are some communities who are practicing. Some like Maasai, they're not Christian, they're Muslim, but they're practicing. So it's something to do with culture. In UK, Southwark has got the highest FGM preference in the whole of UK. 176,000 in the UK one, but almost 7,000 of us are living in Southwark. And that clearly tells me, giving me more opportunity, like Southwark, highest FGM preference. I'm one of them. What do I need to do? Should I be waiting for another organization coming telling us? Or should I kind of mobilize, bring these women to kind of like attack that shame within themselves, or, thinking like it is okay? But one of the work that I've been doing when I was mayor, luckily I chose Action Aid in Kenya to support them in terms of fundraising and also raising awareness. But the reason why I chose Action Aid is because they're based in Africa, and all of us, remember, we migrated from Africa, and some other, by the way, some Asian countries do practice FGM as well. But with us from Africa now, because of migrating and coming to Southwark or any part of UK, we still came from Africa. And that is where we are talking about 5 million women, girls who are at risk every year. 4 million every year. So for us to stop that from happening, and for them to be numbers or data or start the way we are saying 230 million, what is my responsibility to stop that? And that's why I chose Action Aid. And I was so lucky to go down there to the ground, speak to the survivors. And the most amazing bit was Because I came from the Western world. I can talk about FGM, I can talk about intimacy, I can talk where some women like myself in Africa cannot dare. So I remember sitting and talking, and then when I started talking about types of FGM, the psychological and physical impact and the opportunities, which I might just briefly, the pain that women are going through, them becoming victims of domestic violence, focus on safeguarding, lot of things that instead of like becoming more like FGM centered service, is more like we are focusing more on safeguarding to protect the other kids. So, but at the end, those are what I started internationally is to support ActionAid, becoming more of fundraising for them and also speaking on their behalf and also becoming more of a bit ambassador, not official yet. And within Southwark, I have set up an organization where I bring women, for example, now talking about FGM, talking about, the challenges that they're facing, started swimming classes for them, exercise classes, just for them to have that space to talk about not FGM, anything, but that will lead them to FGM. And it's all because they're so lucky, how I see they're so lucky that they've got someone like me who is willing to talk about everything. But my time, I was doing everything in secret because I wasn't so sure who will accept me and who won't be accepting me. And remember, when I started talking about it, I did not have any immigration status. And then I lost my husband. I was going through my own, but because this was also one of those contributing factors of unspoken traumas that I was living with, I just said, you know what? I need this to be part of my story. And that's how I started my story. And that is how I ended up, becoming an FGM ambassador and talking freely about it without apologizing or feeling any shame or anything.
Well, thank you for sharing that story. It's quite a story. Of course, many of us have heard it because you were very often speaking during your year as mayor on this issue, and I always remember coming away each time from hearing it and at different events being moved by it. So thank you. You've mentioned it's a global issue and often mistaken as a religious practice. How can we combat some of the myths then that surrounds FGM, FGC?
I think more it's education. And my own way of putting it more like normalize the conversation, where this should not be for survivors only. I have seen it's more like we're in a global village now. We all living in London and we've got every nationality. So rather than just talking about domestic violence, for example, FGM is a form of domestic violence, just add to that, talk about it. But the issue is talking with men, which we're trying very hard more to our community leaders, traditional leaders, at least try and not defend, but to talk about women's rights, because this is violation of women's rights, our rights. And then my question has been, until when are we going to be educating people? I think from the time I came to UK, everything that we do, everything is more education. But with me, I want to be more practice in action, putting things in action. Like go out there and say it, put a pledge, come and talk about it, rather than you just come, I tell you what FGM is about, it's affecting this community, this is how, and then you just take that without doing anything. So, for example, at the moment, every year, we've already done the second conference. I started one when I was mayor. I did one now that I'm not the mayor. Then every year, 6th of February, I promise I will continue with that FGM conference because 6th of February is International Day Zero Tolerance to FGM. I don't want to do in a class setting. I don't want it to be more mandatory training where we just tick a box in every organization. When you ask them, what have you done? Oh, it is compulsory for all the staff to do training. It's not about that because you understand, if you're an employee, you can understand that there are so many thing that you just do for the sake. It's mandatory refresher. But FGM is not like that.
It becomes a tick boxing
Yeah,
exercise.
it shouldn't be tick box, because the more you see, there's so many thousands of women who are they're crying in silence. They don't talk about it. Even right now, with these women that I have to make it more coming in as a joke. You know, like try and say something which will make them open up. But if you go directly and say, actually, have you been cut? It's more like you can trigger any underlying psychological issue. And also, for example, one of the biggest thing I've been saying, for example, one of the experience, you go to your GP, the GP will only have 10 minutes for you to talk about one issue, not two, one. But he will still have time to ask you about FGM, because they underestimate what FGM is about. Are you a survivor? But sometimes that question, when they ask it in a wrong way, it can trigger the underlying psychological issue. But at that moment, the GP is not equipped to deal with you, because their focus is and was more on safeguarding. Or you are a survivor, you have a daughter, then they keep. But this is what now, luckily, I have been telling the doctors. It's more like, I remember when I was working in addiction field, because I was a primary care practitioner, I used to have the opportunity to sit with the doctors during lunch break. And I have educated so many, especially some who are lecturers in UCL, and they're telling me, thank you, Naima, because we are very blind. When patients come to us, that 10 minutes, we kind of quickly, we don't want you to say, I've got tummy pain or headache or something. So when it comes to talking about FGM, one of the things is normalize conversation. Do not sympathize, empathize. Learn the language of, you don't need to learn everybody's language. But you remember, whenever you're talking to a survivor, and do not just assume that every woman is cut, because the cuts are different also.
It's
The cuts are different. So there is different types of FGM. You don't need to know everything, but just deal with every woman like you could have been dealing with your own sisters, your own wives, and every special women around in your family.
And you mentioned the reported cases, of course. There may be many more that aren't reported, that are still cases nonetheless. In Southwark, it was 7,000 out of over 100,000 in the UK. And despite all the campaigning and education and the talking that you've talked about that's happened for the last number of years, the cases are going up. I'm looking at cases identified by the NHS in 2024, 2024, up by about 15%. Is there a way to reverse that trend, in addition to what you've already said?
You know, maybe I might say I'm more of an expert in my own, but when it comes to the numbers, none, unless something happened, all of us are these women who migrated. When you're looking, and these are the questions we've been asking, when the numbers that the NHS are collecting mainly are women who are pregnant, they're coming there to present to the clinic for their pregnancy. The FGM happened to young girls. It doesn't happen to adults. So the question I've been asking, for example, my daughter is 16. She's never had that kind of like medical examination. If I could have cut her when she's little, maybe until she's adult, that they will kind of like know, or if she speaks about it. So if we are not very careful, when the NHS are looking at the number is these women like ourselves who presents. I'm not saying that right now the numbers are not increasing here, but when we're looking at these are the women who are still migrating. Remember, women are still coming here, having their babies, and that adds to the data. When we are looking at Southwark, I don't remember anybody doing a proper research to tell us exactly the number of, but this is just the data they collected based on people like us who have, like many of them maybe they haven't even to GP or whatsoever that they can. It's more like Somalians, for example, 98% have undergone FGM. Where there is high population of Somalian, then you make that assumption that obviously that's how. But in terms of NHS, it's more of women who are presented for kind of like childbirth and that. But women who did not have or haven't, those are the ones that I'm fighting for even more, because the services is not best for them. And this is what I'm fighting for, having that specialist service for FGM survivors, especially for non-bearing, for those who don't even, some of them, maybe they'll never have kids. Maybe that has been impacted by FGM. But because they will never have opportunity to go to the hospital for childbirth, they will be the one who will be lost in the middle, and also the kids. So that's why I'm saying normalized, but that data, it is increasing obviously, but it's mainly, I can assure you, it's more those who present and those who just go there when they're going for their consultation.
It's one thing having raw data and using it for whatever purpose, and then actually knowing the context. And I think you've explained that quite well, Adelina.
Yeah. So speaking a bit more about violence against girls and also women, one of the causes that we often hear Prime Minister Starmer championing on is the to end violence against women and children. And it's a topic which has been bolstered by many women in government and also in parliament. Do you think that they're doing enough? And if not, what do you think should be done?
I love when you talk about the government and if we are doing, you know what, sometimes the violence against women and girls is there. And I don't think if it will go so much, especially right now where we're getting lots of different cultures, different communities coming from, because something that we normalize as not domestic violence, it can be perceived as. You understand? And I will just give you just an example, which, for example, my expertise around FGM. Unless I speak about it, they won't associate that with the domestic violence. But I can assure you nobody has spoken about it in some way, because we have to educate the women now to report, tell them what domestic violence is about. Unless we report, as long as it's underreported, nothing can be done. But at the end of the day, what does domestic violence mean to different communities? For sure. I will give you an example in terms of FGM. And unless now I say that the time people will say, actually, it is true. Let me tell you an example. A woman who's undergone FGM type 3, where she's cut and stitched up, and then young girl, she's never had any intimacy. Maybe at the age of 18, 19, she gets married. She marries, and her first intimacy becomes so painful. But that man, because he does not feel the pain, he just maybe wants to break her virginity, because that is more. One of the reasons is to preserve virginity. For many now, that moment is, to break virginity. That woman, at that first or initial encounter, she will never associate intimacy with pleasure. It will always be pain. What happens now? After that, whenever a man comes near her, because her brain kind of like, she's already traumatized. She will never kind of like, whenever this man comes, she's like kind of make it very much tight, not making like that moment 2 ways or that enjoyment. And then the man will end up calling her every name, that she's not good in bed, that and that and that, and often. So some of them will try and overcompensate, just to kind of keep thinking like she's incomplete. There is something. And then you see all these media, women coming out like as if they are enjoying to the best. So these women, some of them, they've already been told that they're incomplete because of the one do. And then that has been evidenced by her not to. But that does not mean that the woman who's been cut won't be not having that, like she's not going to be having, like feeling or having orgasm. It is there. But it's just because of that trauma. And then by all the name that she's called, that is obvious. They can tick all the box of being a victim of domestic violence. But now tell me, will that woman come and talk about FGM? Or will she say, my husband is doing this and this? Where maybe some of them, they've been told that you have to be in that marriage and you should not talk about it. So that kind of cohort now, they haven't reported much. Then you go to different, and that's why I know the government are trying their best based on all the incidents and things that had happened. Things are in place, but it is like a responsibility of all of us, all human beings, I would say, to kind of like just like I say, always normalize. Don't make it more like, oh, so sorry, too much sympathy. Always I go with sympathy. If you really want, stay with that person, just try and understand. Because everyone's voice, when we put together and we come together and speak, that's the only time we can be stronger together and we can be listened. So it's not only like waiting for the government to do something. We all have to take part in everything that is happening around us.
Yeah, thank you. That was very powerful again. And I really appreciate you for sharing that as well. And just to, don't mean to like pigeonhole on this again, but just going back to the other issues that you've worked on, so drug and alcohol abuse, the national average in London, it's gone up quite a bit. So why do you think that is? And what are we doing that's not really dealing with it enough to get it to drop down?
You know what? I think was it 2019 that I stopped working. And then I became a politician. So right now, if I speak, it will be more assumptions, because I think that could have been good for someone who is actually working in the field now to say, because my time definitely was different. And then every year or every time there is new different drugs that comes. And during my time, we were dealing more with methadone, those people who are becoming more addicted to heroin and crack cocaine, because many could not afford cocaine, but it was more cheaper to get. And then also, we were focusing more on long-term maintenance, those who have been on maybe methadone, which is a substitute of heroin, who've been using it maybe 20, 30 years. Like we were getting more aging population as a result, and we didn't know how to move them. And some of them, I remember my time, they were like on maybe 5 mils of methadone for many, many, many years. When you look at 5 mil, it's very little, but it's extremely addictive to them that they cannot come off. So that was 2019 and beyond. After that, to be honest, right now, I have not even been bothered that much to go to know what is happening. So I'm sure there might be new drugs, illegal drugs that people are using. I know for sure the substitute of heroin and that have changed. The new things have come up. For sure, new medication has come up. So I think that would be good if we all do some bit of research and find out.
Yeah, definitely. But I think just as to make it a bit more general then and not
Yeah.
too specific, recently there's been more adolescents and younger people using drugs and substances and alcohol and things like that. Why do you think that is, kind of generally speaking, that it's now younger people are entering?
Right now, if I just say one of the biggest causes of our things which has changed, one, I will say during the pandemic, that has contributed to a lot of mental health issue, and some people were finding ways to suppress their feelings and all that. The cost of living crisis as well. People are running away, like obviously if you cannot put on your food on your table or you are being called. So for many, it becomes so easy for them to be groomed into or be given drugs or something like that. But like when you see everything somehow connected, nobody can just wake up one morning and say, I will be using drugs. When we're talking about youngsters or adults, but majority of the places that I've worked with is more of adults over 18. But I'm sure if it is after 2019, pandemics and the cost of living crisis and all this have contributed to.
Yeah, definitely.
Taking that into Southwark again, many of the issues we talked about, addiction and so on, just one of the issues, housing, childcare support, crime, all our concerns. As you're standing down as councillor and can reflect on your time, do you think Southwark's in a better place now in 2026 than it was when you were elected 4 years before?
I would say 100%.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not going to use 100%. To me, obviously, there have been massive, because when you look at the councillors who are kind of elected in 2022, there was massive representation. You know, for example, one of the biggest thing, when I sat there, I was the first Hijabi Muslim woman. You understand? That has ticked a lot of, things that maybe many things that has not been discussed previously, that I have highlighted and educated. Then we've got many of the countries who've had many of their own lived experience and who could openly talk about what had happened to them. And I think for sure 2022, as a result of that representation, there was massive discussion about everything that we can be talking about. And that is why politics plays a massive role of like who is actually representing you.
And at the moment, of course, you are a Labour councillor. You wear hijab and you actually wear many hats as well. But do you feel, and of course, we also have a Labour government now since you've been elected as councillor. Do you feel that the Labour government has made a positive impact on Southwark?
Of course, I'm sure they have. But yeah, I'm not going to keep on repeating what has been said, because if you look around, you will be told about all the council homes, everything that we've done so well. But Labour's values and by putting someone like me to be sitting at the table and making that decision and influencing change around, that tells you more about what Labour stands for. Honestly, I'm not going to go to everything, but when you look at the kind of candidates or the councillors who are representing Labour within Southwark and all the successes and everything, it didn't come from only one person. It came from all of us coming together, making decisions together. And that is why I am so proud of what Labour has achieved within Southwark, and also putting someone like me to be sitting at that table and being in that decision-making process.
And of course, we are now in election season, local elections. I don't know if you're out door knocking and so on behalf of other candidates, but you yourself, as we've said, you're not seeking re-election, you're standing down. Why have you come to that decision?
Sometimes, if you remember when I told you, when I came into politics, you think sometimes it's just so easy, you just come in. But the other bit is you have to work full time or be having your own business to put food on the table. And I will just be honest, when you have your own kids, I'm a mother of 4, and I have to work for them. And then I want to spend evenings with them. I want to take them to their clubs. I want to do something. I was not able to do everything. So I even doubted my mother, although the best thing is, obviously, the decision that I've been involved in is kind of best for their future. So I'm already contributing for my kids and many other kids like them. But I was so much worried the fact that my last born, when I started, it was around 9 years of age. He's 13 now. And if I go back into become a counselor, I'm going to miss his teenage life. He's going to be 18. My daughter will be 20. And they will grow. That time will never come back, but I can still go back to politics. So I really wanted to become more of a mother, and then work and do, at least provide for my family. Provide, but I will still be doing. I'm still doing a lot of community work. I don't see myself as a housewife. I wish I am a good housewife when it comes to like cooking and taking care, but I don't see myself as someone who can just stay in the house 7 days a week. And that's why I've already started some community work, and I will continue to serve the community for sure.
Yeah. So I just wanted to talk a bit more about the Labour Party in itself, because there's been quite a few members actually that have withdrawn and moved to the Green. So why do you think that is?
Are you sure I'm the right person to ask about this? To be honest, it's their personal choice. It's their personal choice. You know, you can just get up, but I don't. You know, everyone has got their own experience or something. And if I could have said some they've been there for long, but we have also those who are elected almost the time that I came in. To be honest, yeah, I would just say it is their choice, and they decide. They know better. Yeah. But to me, I don't see like any letdown from the party or anything because I have enjoyed every moment from the time I decided to become. And I know Labour stands for me, Labour speaks for me, and many people like myself. Honestly, that is something I can assure, and that's why I stayed as loyal member of the Labour Party, and I will say it loudly. It has contributed to where I am, and it is the party that I felt like I said even before, I could have not been where I am. I did not come in with any kind of like, I did not come from a prestige university or a background where I go because I'm being known. I came from almost nowhere and become somebody and something. So and that is what party. But for those who defected or left the party, they've got their own personal reason. But to me, it's not something that I support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talking a bit more about yourself, you are a proud British citizen.
Citizen, 100%.
And you're deeply admired by many in the borough for your activism and your advocacy. But at one point, you were an asylum seeker. You know, arriving in the UK and Southwark itself is a borough made up of a strong immigrant community, fostering cultures from all corners of the world. Do you worry about the direction of the asylum legislation here in the UK then?
Of course, I'm worried. I am worried, but in a way, sometimes, because the fact that I've been in UK for 20 years and I can see things are changing. When we came and when those who are coming now, it is completely different. And I will just tell you again, I was so lucky. When I came, that was when Tony Blair was just elected. Labour Party was just in, and it was one of the most amazing year for me. Although I did not have papers, I did not have any status, but I felt I was part of the community because it was so easy to settle. You just walk in from the airport, you've got your accommodation, you get your benefit and everything started. But because it was available, I think it did not make us become more wanting to rely on, because it wasn't much. We came in wanting, although we are like new in the country, I would say, when I say we, for many asylum seekers, majority of them who straight away they went into employment as soon as they got their status. But the biggest problem is that waiting time. Now, the population is growing. I can understand. Southwark, we've got, for example, over 20,000 of our households on waiting list. And we are in every part of London, there is a struggle. And I can understand why people are panicking, why asylum seekers, but it doesn't mean, but when you're looking at the population of asylum seekers, it's not as much as they're talking about. Maybe they're more economical migrants, but they hardly talk about them because they put all people who look alike, like they're all asylum seekers. There's so many people who are coming here to work, but they've got their home to go back to. But unfortunately, for those who want to make it to look so bad, like the country has been taken over by immigrants or refugees, they're looking at the very few individuals either who do wrong or asylum seekers who just go, and it's just so much. But it is a big thing, and I can look at both sides. Why we can be so much like scared? Can we take more? How can we stop? At the same time, is why are these people leaving their country? This is also when we should be taking that responsibility of like supporting those countries where we know there is a risk of refugees coming. And also the other bit of people we don't talk about also, this global warming is causing more mass migration as well. And then when we're educating people, we kind of like hardly encourage people like ourselves to be involved in learning importance of tree planting or taking it back home, because whatever is affecting Africa, drought, for example, and all that, it's affecting us. So it's either we look at it in a big picture where we support these refugees from not coming here working. That's what the government needs to do, so that rather than causing that tension and fight amongst us, and then causing all these right wings and all that blaming, because there is always a cause of a problem. We could have not just left our countries and come here. We were forced to come, and many are still coming, and they will still be coming. So if they want this to stop, I think this is the time that all these world leaders will come together and let every country just have their own, just to stop that cause and that.
Yeah, thank you very
Yeah.
much. And as we're coming towards the end of our time here, you're also coming towards the end of your time as councillor. So, as we've mentioned, could you also give us just some more of your takeaways or your main takeaways from working in local government?
My local government, you know what? You cannot just be involved in local government. You have to have the passion. The question is, why do you want to be in politics or be involved? Why should you sit and allow other people to make decisions for you? If you are a citizen or you have responsibility, we have responsibility of taking care of where we live in. But if you start thinking of me, myself, and I, then you cannot be. And if you really care about the next generation, you're thinking of when you get old, how will I be treated by the system? It is the time for you to get up and do something. If you are planning to have kids and you know your kids will go to school, they will be walking on the street and you'll be so scared of these gangs and everything. You need to go and do something. When I say do something, you need to start with doing voluntary work. You need to know your neighbors. You need to take out, to promote also love, not hate, not to see any differences in anybody. Don't judge anybody why they come to the country. Listen to their story. But at the same time, I always say, like, become an active citizen. Take this country as yours. You come in, you become part of, continue. Rather than, when I say, what will I do? Why did I become a councillor? I wanted to influence change. And what will I do? I will continue to do. I will make sure I will go out there and educate people about the system. I will tell them about their rights. And then I will tell them to take part, come out. Let's do litter collection together. Let's not wait for someone to go and clean our park. Ask who is cleaning the park. How do the council spend their money? Where is the money coming from? For many people don't know. Who is your councillor? What is the responsibility of a councillor? What is expected of you and what is expected from them? So I think when we all take part, that will make our world the most beautiful place to be, especially Southwark.
Yeah, and thank you so much. And talking a bit more about Southwark, obviously now politically, the era is kind of very different to when you joined the council in 2022. And do you have a bright future for Southwark? Do you think that we're going, are you very optimistic about the future for Southwark?
You know what? I will tell you Islamically. Sometimes we don't so much, I don't know what future holds for us. But obviously, you're not told to sit down and not to do anything. You have to be involved in our politics. Things will change. And this is something we expect. It's not, nothing will stay same forever. We are not getting any younger. As we are growing every morning, bit of our body is changing, politics is changing, our environment is changing. So I think we just wait and see what will be happening. But it's more for me as well, outside politics. What should I be doing? Whoever comes in, I should be working, because it is the community that who will be served. I will be part of them. And I need to make sure, while I'm still a community activist, I will be taking part in shaping that decision from the community side.
Yeah.
I think I have the last question, and you kind of hinted at it anyway, that you're going to be standing down, as we know, at this election. but you're still going to be doing things in the community. Anything already lined up that you want to tell us about, or anything that you can share with our listeners, even if it's not official yet, but you might want to give us a little sneak preview, or is it too early?
Oh, that's amazing. And you know what, to be honest, I am very multitasked. I'm not someone who just sit. I don't strongly believe to be an employee. If things go worst, I will definitely be going out looking for a job. But that is not in my plate at the moment. I wanted to be a businesswoman way before I became a counselor. I was in that process. I set up everything. Then that is also one of the reasons that I did not want to be in politics, because when you are a politician, you can do so much. Conflict of interest, code of conduct, all of these kind of things stops you. So, but it was painful like 4 years, but because I've already set up my business, and thankfully now I know that direction of continuing. But my business is also part of my passion, something that I love doing. I love our elderly. I love we are getting more aging population. So I set up a care company, which everything is there just for me just to jump in and now to help my son and also to take over from there. That is one when it comes to. The second thing is I've already started. I'm a patron of an organization which I'm the founder. It's called Unshackled Duma. And Unshackled means liberate or unchain. Duma is like working with women in every aspect of anything that affect them. But right now, I'm working with specifically now, but all it's open to everyone, Muslim women. I want them to kind of like come together, have a voice. But my main goal is also to help them to integrate. So I started exercise classes for them. I've got almost 30 women who come every Tuesday. I started swimming classes. That was the best, because many of them, they've never been into water, even in the pool. At least after 12 weeks, we did a graduation party where how many, at least either improved or confident swimmer they became. And also I've also initiated cleaning home for the elderly. So my heart is so much, because some of our elderly, where they live, is not so good, and they don't have enough money. The council don't have enough money for everything. So I want to use my network and the businesses that I kind of know to come together and do extra bid that is not funded by the council. So I'm so excited. I've got lots. That's why I don't know what I will be doing more. But for sure, I won't be idle. And my kids are waiting for me. Dealing with the teenagers is not easy. Yeah.
This is just the beginning, I think.
This is just the
Naima
beginning.
Ali unleashed.
Unleashed, yeah. And also I'm also thinking, I was just thinking of selling samosas. Who know, I might be coming to, what do you call, Bara Market, because I'm so good at making samosas. If life goes, I might be having my stall somewhere. So I will never say no to any opportunity which will stop me from becoming an employee.
You're going to be busy,
Very,
for sure.
very.
Well, that brings us to the end, but I thank you very much for joining us, giving of your time, telling us about your story, your remarkable story. I should say, if anyone's affected by what they've been listening to, we'll put in the credits some resources or reference points if people would need that. But for the last time, I guess, we will address you as Cllr Naima Ali, but we've always had you as Naima, as a friend, and thank you for your time as a councillor. Thank you for your time as mayor, and we've all, I think, benefited tremendously from you. So we're very glad you're not going to be going away too far, and we'll keep watching and hopefully interacting with you as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So we've had yourself, who has come to the end of your time as a councillor, almost. We've had someone who wants to be a councillor for the first time. We've had existing councillors representing the three main parties. So that really probably concludes this series of Living Conversations hosted by Living Bankside. But we'll be doing more in the future if there's demand to do so. But from take Courage House from me, Joseph Baldwin.
And me, Adelina Godinho.
And Cllr Naima Ali. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.